That's the theme. We're going to talk about why global reach and global power are important and why they are core missions for our United States Air Force. Now, they're not new. Since this airman joined the Air Force, global reach and global power have been something we've always done. But what they boil down to is one simple capability, the ability to reach out and touch anyone, anywhere, at any time of our choosing. They provide the United States with the freedom of action, deterrence, and the ability to respond to unprecedented threats anywhere in the world. They are central to our national security, enabling the United States to protect interests, support our allies and partners, and maintain superiority in the air, space, and cyberspace. The Air Force's unique integration of these capabilities ensures that no adversary can match the scale, precision, and flexibility of the United States Air Force's air power. However, in highly contested environments against peer adversaries, the capability is no longer guaranteed. It will not be handed to us by superior technology alone. It will be earned by agile, disrupted, and distributed warfighters who are empowered to make decisions at the tactical edge. Today we will talk about that, about how we're optimizing our reach and delivering our power in the face of contested logistics and degraded communications. Our desire at the end of this afternoon's panel, walk away understanding the incredible synergy required to sustain major combat operations, deliver critical logistics, and the reliance between our bombers, tankers, and airlift communities. We have two talented individuals that are about to come up on this stage with me today with vast experience in all of these things. I'd like to welcome Chief Master Sergeant Shawn Aiello, the Command Chief of Air Force Global Strike, which is the air component to United States Strategic Command. And most importantly, my teammate in Air Mobility Command, the 18th Air Force Command Chief, Chief Master Sergeant Joe Arce. And as Air Mobility Command, we are the service component to U.S. Transportation Command. Gentlemen, I'm going to start off with you, allow you to do some opening comments, and then we're going to do some questions. And after I do the first question, for the rest of the time, if you've got some questions for the panel members, please start to line up at the microphones, because these folks are super smart and they've got some things to talk to you about today. So, Shawn, over to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Great afternoon. Pleasure to be here, and really for AFSA to have us up on stage. I'll tell you, this is a pretty powerful team when it comes to Global Strike and AMC from an air component perspective. But today, it's great to be up here with Chief Arce, representing both, bombers, and then all the things that air mobility does for our nation, quite frankly. The title of the panel was going to be on the stage here, was, Global Reach, Global Power. I want to tell you from where I sit, these two concepts they're inseparable. Quite frankly, we in our command, representing, basically all the free bombers, or the world's free bombers. Nobody else has the capabilities that we can provide from this country. We can't go anywhere outside of the continental United States without grabbing a tanker. And that's just the gas, not describing all the logistics that go along with it. But the ability for our nation to hold any target on the planet at risk is through this partnership and this relationship. I know Ralph is sitting down here. Someday maybe Australia has some tankers we can grab a hold of, but we use that land bridge quite a bit. And so that's part of the contested space that we have to live in. And, that's one of the best parts of the relationship here is we get to do this across the world pretty much at any given time. Our bombers don't cross any ocean without the bridge. And the bridge is it's indispensable part of our capability. And that's the capability that we actually provide across every geographic and functional combatant commander that's out there. It's a really unique organization, but the ability for us to live in the reality of without the partnership, we don't get a lot of things done. And then the other one I would say is just in our day-to-day readiness. Our force has both contract tankers to get us around the world, but also contract tankers here for readiness. But we You know, we have other platforms, our E-4B, refuelable. That aircraft can't go anywhere without a tanker. We get tankers every week that support that, and that's that day-to-day interaction where, you know, our humans interact with the humans inside of Air Mobility Command that build the trust that the tanker will be there when the bomber shows up, no matter where that is around the world. Over the pole, someday maybe down through the South Pole. But, you know, that's the thing that keeps us grounded is, you know, the ability to know that the tanker will be there. And we'll talk a little bit more about the logistics side of the house when it comes to what is hauled inside of the backs of, you know, a C-17, C-5s and the TAC lift as well, and any of the craft that's out there. But I'll turn it over to Chief Arce.
No, thanks, Chief Aiello, and I really appreciate the AFSA team, CMSAF, and obviously those that are here today and those that are live streaming in. You know, what air mobility does for our nation and how we support the global reach through global power is pretty phenomenal. We've seen it firsthand through Operations Midnight Hammer, and then obviously what's going on right now with Operations Epic Fury, and then future fights, right? So when we do large-scale exercises, we talk about that unbreakable handshake between what Global Strike does and then what Air Mobility Command does. It really is inseparable. You know, I don't know of an O plan that they execute that doesn't have something that says Transcom through Air Mobility Command that augments and supplements and obviously amplifies that capability from our tanker fleet with Norries, the 62nd up there in McCord moving other munitions and whatnot for our nation. The things that Air Mobility Command does to provide that global power is pretty phenomenal. So really, you know, as I thank the team here and obviously as we listen this week, what I will just kind of glean from all of it is, you know, we have to continue to build that readiness, and it's dependent on us as both component commands to a combatant that we build the readiness, and we need all of your help. You know, sometimes it's lost that when you see the boom and the bomber, that's what, you know, delivers the effect. But it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of support airmen that are making sure that happens, right? And I'm glad we have a couple of our teammates here today to help amplify that. But again, look forward to the conversation. Dennis, I know you'll keep us on time, on target. But really, again, thanks CMSAF, thanks AFSA, and look forward to the questions. So let's rock and roll.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Hey, as you did your opening comments, you know, I was thinking about the synergies, the strategic synergies between both of our MAGCOMs. And you both alluded to it in your opening comments, but can you share some recent or past, fairly recent examples of how your communities make our global deterrence credible to our adversaries?
All right, you want me to, okay. So says we just that question right there is like, hey, what's recent and informable, right? And that's making sure that we deter, whether it's China right now, watching what's going on is, you know, when our nation has called, we have been there. And there's probably tens of dozens of more people that are in this audience right now that I could ask you to tell your story about what you did to help support, whether it was a tanker at Fairchild or a bomber at Whiteman, or, you know, I could go on and on. But where I will really go from, like, the rule of recency is, you know, the teammates that right now that are having to lift and shift currently right now in the AOR. I don't think we can really truly articulate what that means for the service members that are there right now, where because of certain things that we're doing, we have to be able to take that capability and move it at speed and scale to ensure that that timing that we have to deliver, that effect we have to deliver, whether it's for the fighter community or the bomber community, that we have to be there when they need us. They don't get around if we're not where we have to be, and it takes professionals. So I did bring a couple of SMEs, so I'm going to kick it over to Staff Sergeant Schmidt and Staff Sergeant McIntosh to kind of help tell us the story through their eyes. And ladies and gentlemen, these 4 Air Mobility Command airmen, as we heard about the Comanches in a previous panel. These airmen were on the ground. They're going to tell you how they had to get that tanker off the ground at Ben Gurion. They're going to tell you how they were flying crew chiefs that had to put munitions all over the AOR to make sure that our Patriots and our things that we needed to do got what they needed when they needed it. So again, I'll kick it over to you guys to help answer that question really right now. Thanks.
Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Staff Sergeant McIntosh. I'm from the 32nd Air Refueling Squadron over at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. I'm fortunate to be a KC-46 boom operator here in the greatest Air Force on the planet. So as a boom operator in the world, just like the chiefs mentioned, nothing happens for air power perspective without tankers being there. We're always in the background providing that gas for any kinetic target or any sort of ISR platform, support platform. We're always there on the ground for that. So in the flying community, as we always say, so there I was, insert location. But we have a saying in the tanker community, no one kicks blank without tanker gas. I'll let you insert that word however you want to do so. But just to give some examples, as far as some previous operations in the CENTCOM AOR, some of the big name operations that were happening on a global news platform, Operation Epic Fury, Rough Rider, Midnight Hammer, just some examples to provide for everyone in the room. The tanker community was always pivotal in to do so. So for example, for Operation Midnight Hammer, if you saw General Kane giving his brief as far as the actual operation going, you could see all the different tanker platforms being staged, providing gas, providing that support to the entire combat air force, wherever they were, whatever mission they were accomplishing at that same time. For me personally, I was deployed last year to 379th, the Grand Slam Wing. I was very fortunate to do a staff position as a senior airman, as wing standing val. So for those unfamiliar in that position, that's very uncommon for a senior airman. I replaced a captain in that position, and when I finished my assignment, I was replaced by a master sergeant. Some of those challenges incorporated with that were, as the 46 was a newer weapon system in the tanker community, I was part of that first ever deployment for the KC-46 into the CENTCOM AOR to kind of establish our track record as we're the newest tanker, we're the newest capability that the Air Force has to provide for its mission set. So some of the challenges part with that was, as Chief Russell mentioned earlier today, the 12-day war, I was there for that. So that was a very big challenge as far as just generating our combat air power with a lot of degradation, alarm reds going on, lack of sleep, loss of communication throughout the world. So a lot of things were going on, but it was our teammates and the tanker fleet that were providing all that capability, no matter where it was, if it was ACE to an austere location, hub and spoke operations, the tankers are always there when needed to do so. Tankers are the silent professionals. We're pass gas, and we do our part. That's all I got. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Staff Sergeant Schmidt out of Joint Base Charleston, Joint Base Lindsey Graham now. I am a flying crew chief for the C-17. Yeah, we've been talking a lot today about global reach. Global reach defines the C-17. As a flying crew chief, it is my job to make sure the plane gets from point A to point B, anytime, anywhere, any place. There's been a lot of operations that have been going on recently. Operation Midnight Hammer, I was a part of that. And for global reach, that refers to like more than just moving munitions, moving refuelers and whatnot. Like it also refers to people. I've had the opportunity to go out and during Operation Midnight Hammer do evacuations as well of 390 people on a C-17, which is crazy. But yeah, there's no better job to it. There's quite a bit of challenges. My job is to fix a jet no matter what goes on to make it airworthy. But yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
And then from the global strike side, what I would want you to walk away from this is, you know, the way we've operated in the past, from large installations, how we used to employ our bombers was, you know, some flare up, geographic commander command says, hey, send some forces forward. We demonstrate the capability. We allow those bombers to go to said AOR, be present in that space, signal, you know, the intent. And then maybe that doesn't, you know, maybe it does. Maybe they don't go into the operational mode at that point where we're actually executing kinetic operations. That's the intent, you know, deterrence. I don't know that that's going to be the future. How we've operated here in the recent 24 months through the named operations that you've heard up here, we are executing far more CONUS to CONUS. We do CONUS to CONUS quite frequently. We've done it for Epic Fury, where it was a CONUS to CONUS. That then was days on end that transitioned into a forward operating location. That's really bounded and protected by what we do in a bomber task force when we're doing exercises with the combatant commands. And so we've learned a lot, exercised a lot, and those, what I will call rehearsals, have played out very positively. And I think that the forces here, the combination of both, the tanker airlift side and the bomber side, through those other venues have really, protected our ability to execute that mission with precision and time. We talked about counter-US earlier too. We talked about defend the base. This is another one where we're launching from CONUS, no different on the AMC side. And so protecting our bases, the airspace, is really important because the last thing we need is to ingest a drone, even if it's a casual, hobbyist or agriculture for whatever reason, or malicious intent. And so that we got to protect all those things. So those three things have really driven our ability to rely a little more heavily on both the logistics from an air perspective when it comes to both equipment, humans, moving those humans to forward operating locations. At the same time, we're moving bombers to those locations. And so that has played out very positively. But I want you to take away that the way we have operated in the past is likely not the way that we will operate in the future. We are far more capable and there's not an adversary that can do global reach, global power, and it is one of our strongest advantages that, like I mentioned earlier, access basic and overflight is never guaranteed, and in some cases, sometimes contested in our own CONUS basis. So from a bomber perspective, just keep that in mind, and I hope that draws out some questions from you, because I think that's where we really need to drive our force, and being able to flush even from CONUS forward, and then doing the same when we're in the forward operating location.
Shawn, you bring up a good point. Stop answering questions before I ask them. Hey, folks, if you want to come up to the microphones, you have some questions. These two folks are ready to answer them. But Shawn, I do have a question for you, and you kind of alluded to it already. In Air Mobility Command, our job is to project, connect, maneuver, and sustain the joint force. I've supported a lot of bomber task force over my career and really appreciated them when I was the AFSAF command chief. You flew a lot of missions through AFSouth. But as we transition to this more contested environment and, we talk about resourcing, we've got to be ready to fight tonight. And how do our communities maintain rapid generation capabilities from CONUS while simultaneously preparing your airmen to get out the door to go overseas and operate from overseas locations, seamlessly transition forward operating locations while under pressure? And you're seeing that right now, and you saw it as you deployed your bombers.
Yeah, and so we talked about this, Dr. Donnell and the team talking about resiliency. Well, this is done through, airmen and really, putting their best foot forward every single day. And we have one of those airmen here today, Mary Zamora from Ellsworth. Just a little bit about Ellsworth right quick. Ellsworth did what I would call a CONUS-based BTF to Grand Forks for 10 months. We took every B-1 from Ellsworth, closed the runway at Ellsworth, sent them all to Grand Forks. So thank you to ACC for allowing us to go there and probably break a little glass and probably boost the morale of the bars in Grand Forks for 10 months. They did that for 10 months, came back in December, and immediately were engaged with operations. And Mary, as a flight line pro super outdoor maintainer for us, right, making the mission happen. And she's going to talk a little bit about her experience and how that applies to the human aspect, but not only getting aircraft where they need to be in a timely manner. Go ahead, Mary.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Chief. My name is Mary Zamora, and I am the 37th Bomber Generation Squadron's lead pro super. As Chief already said, in January 2025, the 20th Bombing relocated B-1 operations to Grand Forks Air Force Base, North Dakota, while we went under a massive reconstruction for our runway in advance of the B-21. For nearly a year, many of our airmen lived on a cycle of roughly 3 months gone, 1 month home. And then in December, we finally brought the fleet and our airmen home. Only for weeks later, we transitioned supporting combatant commanders around the globe. By February, our airmen were standing on a flight line in South Dakota in brutal weather, generating combat air power that would reach halfway across the world. And if I can share just a little B1 math for you, sometimes it takes generating 5 to get 3 airborne to get 2 across the pond. Now imagine doing that in below zero, with the wind blowing sideways, the clock ticking, and knowing this isn't an exercise anymore. It's real, and our airmen delivered. Days later, we went from generating air power at home station to packing our bags and deploying forward. With no exact return date, we were going for as long as the mission needed. Forward deployment brought its own challenges. Some airmen lived in tents with more than 30 other people. Those of us fortunate enough to live in dorms were 4 to a room and 8 to a bathroom. Turns out, generating B1s was sometimes easier than generating 8 ladies out of the bathroom on time for roll call. We went from cold and rainy to hot and rainy with long hours, limited resources, and constant change. But challenge after challenge, our airmen adapted because we sent the best of the best. For me, that sacrifice was a little more personal. My husband had been deployed since August 2025. He came home early to take care of our 2-year-old boy so that I could deploy. His plane landed on a Friday, and less than 48 hours, I was on a plane to head overseas. Between our TDYs and deployments, we'd spent about 2 months together over the course of almost 2 years. But my story wasn't unique. Every airman on that flight line had someone or something they were leaving behind, and still they showed up. They showed up tired, they showed up cold, but they showed up ready. Even after spending most of the previous year away from home, they left again without knowing exactly when they would come home. That's what generating air power looked like for us. The B1s were what we were sent into the fight, but it was the resilience, sacrifice, and grit of our airmen that made the air power possible. Thanks, Chief.
Amazing story. Thanks for sharing. Do you want to add, Shawn, anything to that?
No, just, CMSgt talked about this. Our aircraft, and actually, SEAC ISM said it best, humans are more important than hardware. And in this case here, Mary's one example. There's probably, you all have examples in your formations of the same caliber of human doing this. And I'll tell you, Mary didn't complain. I didn't hear any complaints from the Zamora family. And I applaud her for that. That's tough. We have to do our part. There are folks in this room I see over here on the side who made sure that Mary had warm water and Cadillacs. I won't say the location, but Melissa, thank you. To Jason Tricky and Kwiatkowski's gone, but now Josh Wiener. That's what we need, and that's part of global reach, global power, is having the sustainment side to take care of the force. Undersecretary talked about it. Our infrastructure in the CONUS is not where it needs to be. And we were working on infrastructure, which then challenged us, but airmen overcame. They told us what they needed to be fixed and get ready to actually execute the mission, and they performed with precision and flawless capability. And that's the no-fail mission of global reach, global power. So I just really appreciate that. And there's, like I said, stories like Mary's across our formations and across our Air Force, but I appreciate you talking a little bit about it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story. Thanks, Shawn. Arce, I got a question for you. As we look at the landscape, that AOR doesn't look anything like when you and I were over there as command chiefs. Josh Wiener and I served in that AOR together with John Storms. It's a different world. But 5 years ago, we were having this conversation about, General Gio tasked us to look at other locations. And I won't mention those locations because we're operating out of them today. But folks looked at us and said, what are you talking about? Why are we going to send a couple F-15Es to that base? We'll never go there. We never have. I come here and I get my ice cream and I go to the Fox Sports Bar and get my 3 beers a day. But I think we had some strategic thinkers and leaders that knew we'd be here one day. But the environment's changed. And so, Chiefs, I got a question for you, and Arce, I'd like for you to start. We're moving away from operating at those massive locations and sanctuary bases. And a high-end access base and overflight issue is happening, and it's never guaranteed that we'll have it. How are you or your respective communities preparing our airmen to execute the mission when the runway, the airspace, or our host nation access is heavily contested?
Yeah, no, thanks, Dennis. You know, Simsaf said something a little bit earlier, and I don't know which form it was, but he had said that, hey, some of us who decided to stick around, you know, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. And the one thing is obviously being the command chief of the 62nd Airlift Wing out at McCord and having the C-17s, and then obviously being one of the previous command chiefs out at the Grand Slam Wing at the 379th AEW. You know, getting the chance to see the plans that our nation is working on to make sure that we have that deterrence, we have the capability, and we're thinking about it. I think sometimes that's one of the things that make me sleep well at night is I know that our senior leaders are putting forth the right, you know, reps and sets to make sure that we understand the 50 series in one AOR, the 30 series going over the, you know, the north side of the thing, but then also how are we working the diplomatic piece? Because as we talked about some of that ABO access, and I've got a couple other young, amazing airmen that are going to talk a little bit about that. When we were doing what we are doing, we have to have that whole mobility team to be able to, and I alluded to it earlier, lift and shift. So if access today is not guaranteed and we have to roll to another place, that's the mobility force is going to lift and shift that entire, you know, situation. And if Israel or our partners or whoever that may be come to our support and we need to do things, then obviously we're going to have to be able to support them, and we're going to have to support other host nations and other allied partners. But, you know, I'll kick it over as I did previously, because I really do believe that the airman side of the conversation, the airman story of the things that they do, really hope resonate with you all on like, hey, the readiness and the things that we're doing, like these airmen are you. Like they have the same training, the same readiness, the same thing that they're doing right now, but they have that competence. And I'll talk about that, you know, as a port dog who's now in the AOC, but came from the CR force, the Contingency Response Force. His credibility gave him the opportunity to leverage his teammates to be like, hey, I need you to do these things. And at speed and scale, because he built that trust, he was able to get them to understand and move out quickly. Not the whole, well, I don't know if that's the way we should do things. It's that competence, it's that credibility in your specialty that gives you that. And then, you know, Sergeant Flathers, who he literally has been in the CONUS for, I want to say, 96 hours. He literally flew back to home station. I want to say you text me on maybe Thursday or whatnot and said, hey, Chief, I'm here, because we wanted to have that conversation. So, you know, if you don't mind, Sergeant McDonald and Sergeant Flathers, can you speak a little bit about like how you had to adapt and how many bases, maybe not the exact locations, obviously, but how many bases did you provide boom refueling opportunities to your teammates, and how many, you know, while you were over there in OEF and in our area? So over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Again, I'm Staff Sergeant Flathers from Fairchild Air Force Base. Thank you. I was fortunate enough, I started my career as a F-16 engine maintenance, and then I was fortunate enough to retrain as a KC-135 boom operator. And for the readiness aspect and preparing our airmen and even preparing myself, it started with Lackland Air Force Base at fundamentals. They set the foundation of what it is to be aircrew, how to fly safe, effectively, and execute the mission under any pressure. And then it continued to Altus, where I learned hands-on how to do my job, how to give that gas effectively in any environment, plans constantly changing. And it didn't stop when I went to Fairchild. I get to Fairchild, and the whole base sets a precedence no matter what. The defenders, defending the base and the flat line. And it continues either home station or overseas, and maintainers, making sure that the birds are ready to fly. POL, making sure that we get the gas that we can pass off to whoever. And then even in my squadron, the 93rd Air Refueling Squadron, my SCL, my senior enlisted leader, Master Sergeant Markham, has instilled in our squadron there is no place for complacency, adaptability, how to execute the mission and any environment. Be comfortable in not being comfortable, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. So two quick examples I got for that. Last year, we just knocked out Operation Rough Rider, and my crew was going in, getting our brief. We just knocked out 30 flights in the past however long. Didn't matter. This is just another flight to us. So we get the show, we get the brief, we get our products, same as any other flight, right? That comfortability, it's not really comfortable. And then my commander at the time sets our crew aside, takes us aside, and he says, here's your real product. What you're actually doing is Operation Midnight Hammer. You're supporting that mission right now. So, all right, this is an uncomfortable situation, but I've trained for this. I've prepared for this. This is what we practice back home. So we get off the ground, we go where we need to go, and we're waiting for the receivers, and we get degraded comms. We're trying to hear, we're trying to listen, and they're saying, hey, we use more gas quickly than what we actually initially planned. We need gas now. We said, hey, no problem. We're exactly where we said we're going to be. They said, that's the problem. We need you guys to meet us here. Put in the coordinates. It's behind enemy lines. It is in contested airspace. No problem. We trained for this. We're ready for this. We go in. We go behind enemy lines. We offload what we need to. We get them out safely. And because of that effort and because of that training that I got, my crew and I were very thankful to be awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for our efforts and what we did for Operation Midnight Hammer. And I am thankful and credit Fairchild Air Force Base and the 93rd ARS in instilling that to us, that I can execute the mission in any type of environment. And the second example, real quick, more recently, I know Monday they talked about Dude 44 going down behind enemy lines. It just so happens I was in the neighborhood again. So my crew shows up and they say, hey, you're going to support combat search and rescue. We're going to go get our guy. I said, no problem. We go up in the air as scheduled, as planned. We go where we need to go, and they say, hey, these are your receivers. All right, cool. Well, we hear over the radio a different type of receiver. We need gas now. We are critical. We do not want to return. We are in the fight. We want to still support. We want to stay here. Who has gas? Who is the closest tanker? We were the closest tanker. So they call us up and they say, hey, we're coming to you. 5 minutes. We'll be there in 5 minutes. No problem. So another set of different receivers, and we all know that not all aircrafts are created equal. So because of that, with the KC-135, there's different rules on different receivers. We have to have different configurations for the aircraft. And my pilots know it because not only does Master Sergeant Markham instill in the enlisted to not have complacency, it also goes to the pilots. So my aircraft commander, Major Tim Shank, an incredible aircraft commander, he's very smart. He also instills that into every pilot that he's trained because he is a very highly qualified evaluator and instructor pilot. So he was able to also execute checklist discipline in getting that aircraft in the correct configuration, as well as my co-pilot, the best damn co-pilot that the Air Force has ever seen, and Captain Cody Crowder. I know that name might sound a little familiar, and yes, he is the son of retired Chief Derek Crowder. So if you ever know, damn good guy. So they get the jet in the configuration just in time. Aircraft comes, they're ready for fuel. We didn't waste a second because we don't have complacency and we have that discipline in any type of environment. They come up, I give them the gas, they go right back to it. I unload to the other receivers, the original receivers, stow the boom, and I go up into the cockpit. That is when we are now at critical fuel. We need to land. Our plan was to go to a different location, fuel up, get back up in the air, get our guy home. As we are going, we hear over the radio, mission complete, mission success, all aircrafts out of enemy territory and are safe. And I'm going to tell you right now, thank God for autopilot because we were just cheering, clapping, fist bumping in that cockpit. We've never been so proud. And I can't thank enough of my leadership that started from Lackland, from the training and the foundation that they built that prepared me for that moment, for the moment last year, and any moment in the future, and any airman that I will teach to how to execute the mission in any other kind of environment, to execute it perfectly and on time and safe and reliable. And as far, Chief, as the bases that I've been to, we are now up to 4 in the last 5-ish or so months. So doesn't matter where we go, we're gonna do the mission, and we're gonna do a damn good job doing it. Thank you.
That's a fired up airman right there.
I don't know if you guys heard, I mean, the Distinguished Flying Cross. I mean, when we were thinking about who was going to be able to support the narrative of what we were going to talk about, you know, global reaches, global power, I hope we're kind of giving you all you can handle. So, but I think we got one out in the crowd, Dennis.
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
Hey everybody, I'm Sergeant McDonald.
You were supposed to introduce.
We're going to let him answer the question. Sorry, buddy.
All right, good afternoon. Tech Sergeant Smith out of Team Shepherd, tech training instructor down there. As a former B-52 avionics maintainer, I have to ask a question for my brothers and sisters up in Minot. Many of the sustainment challenges you guys have all mentioned here, like the ingenuity, the creativity that all these airmen have in Global Strike in General Orders AMC-2. I just have to think back to my time as like a shift lead, staff sergeant, driving the truck, driving to like 5, 6 different jets, dropping people off, and then a tool or piece of test equipment is stopping me. So I have to ask, what's being done in the investment of like the sustainment of the B-52 or like these older platforms that's going to help keep the aircraft in the air in the future?
Thank you for asking that question. And I'm gonna mention a phrase that probably not a lot of people know here. There will be some there'll be some AFMC folks that may know it, which is the North Star Readiness Campaign 53. Does anybody know what that North Star 55 or North Star 53? Anybody know what that is? Yeah, I see a bunch of hands back there because that's all the Barksdale Global Strike people. Not you. Anybody else? Good. So over a year ago, under previous leadership, General Fuselier, so we only have 2 nuclear capable bombers, B-52 and the B-2, and our readiness levels were to your point, extremely poor across the board. With his leadership and General Richardson, now General Hurry and General Davis, they instituted and applied some creative logic on how we actually maintain, get the supply, get depot, get a DLA, get a variety of players, we call them pillars, to get in line and pull the right levers to get you what you need. And so, 18 months ago, we probably had about 12 to 15 B-52s that were flyable on any given day, out of 76. Today we are averaging roughly, 40 to 45. This is not an AA rate. This is legitimate single, 53 is the number for every day, and we're hovering above the 30s into the low 40s. You know what a DTR is? Yeah, you know what a DTR is, right? Sure. 2 per jet. It was a critical MICAP. And what do we try to do in the supply world is drive them down, right? We want to make that driver go down. That is no longer a driver for MICAP on those platforms because the supply chain emphasized applied dollars, talked about WSS CAM, to the portfolio where we needed it. The wing pillar, which is our airmen, through grit and determination, we can't theory of constraints our way out of this fight. We need the system to work to our advantage and to your advantage so you have the parts on the shelf, that you have the technical capability, and you use your 7-level skill sets to train those 3 levers to be 5 levels to go out and get the job done, right? So we have increased the readiness capability of the platform itself based on these initiatives. This was all supported by the Air Force. AFMC dollars, A4 leverage, General Wilsbach, the Vice, everybody has leaned into this. We started this on the B1 side of the house, and I can tell you in a forward operating location where the B1s, we on any given day, we have 10 ready, green, capable. This is not B1 math. This is actual math, right? 13 aircraft, 1 can, 2 down for MICAP, 10 to 11 ready to go, fully loaded, ready to go, and flyable. So I think the system responds when we put heat and light against it. And that is what we're doing. There's other innovations that we're doing through the supply chain, through engines, through PDM. If you didn't know this, 2 years ago, we had 17 B-52s at Tinker. That's a squadron of B-52s. Today we have 12. And supply to our AFMC brethren, they're pulling that number down every day, work in progress. And so we're doing yeoman's work. Where we do need to do a better job on our side is experiencing the line, to your point, like just getting our airmen to experience the reps and sets so they can then be ready when, the dynamic, red ball happens, so they can get to the jet and get it fixed. So we're not taking whole parts out. They're diagnosing, triaging with a scalpel versus a hatchet. So we're working on that. The B-52J, is in the future. It'll get new engines. It'll get a new radar. It's some new wiring and some glass. But it's venable. I mean, it's a workhorse. And so we're really proud that the Air Force has taken the steps here in the last 18 months to infuse supply, depot, engines, engineering support, and the wing pillar, which is you. So, I think that's, we're moving in a good direction, and we're putting capabilities where we say we need to have them and support the line.
Great question. Thanks, Shawn. Sorry for ignoring you, man. The lights were super bright, and I'm blind. Hey, we've got 2 minutes, folks. So you got one more airman. We didn't bring him all the way to AFSA to not have him tell his story. So we'll do that, and then I'll quick shot at both of you.
No, I kind of alluded to it earlier when we talked about that competence, and I was talking with Sergeant McDonald. The one thing that I will tell you is, you could tell he was proud of his profession, right? As a port dog, and I'm sure there's a couple other port dogs out there, and then being in the CR, and then now being in the AOC, and that's really where I want to span this, right, is that global reach is our Air Operations Center, the 618th. We do a lot of things, but it's that team, and he's in the GAB, but that team in the AOC really does connect the world. And I don't want to sound that as kind of cliche or, like just it really does, because the things that we're doing in the CENTCOM AOR, people don't realize that if you laid the map completely flat, there are mobility aircraft in the Pacific. There's Pacific, in the northern regions, all the way in the South America, there is mobility constantly moving. So that may be right now where the news feed is, but I promise you that if you, again, laid this flat, where air mobility assets are all over the globe, it's pretty intense. And again, what, this young, airman does every single day is pretty good. So, sir, if you mind coming up now and kind of give your perspective on, like, how you had that credibility in the AOC, and then, like I said, Dennis, we'll close it up.
Yeah, you got it.
Hey, everybody. I'm Sergeant McDonald, the 618th AOC. I like to think of myself as the world's greatest aerial porter, but that's just me. Anyway, at the AOC, we got a plan everywhere. All the explosives and things like that, they don't just end up where they end up. They got to come out of CONUS. So we had to call multiple bases we've never been before, to learn to where to put these explosives so they're readily available to us when we need them, and we can get them overseas in a good amount of time. I think another thing that we need to prepare for, though, is the operation with loss of life, right? So how do we get this jet off the tarmac and get it off the X? And the only way to do that is to speed up our joint inspections, load the plane faster, and get it off so we don't lose life. Another thing is we don't want to lose the ability of the operation. So when we build these load teams, we don't want them all porters. We want a cop, we want comm, we want a maintainer. We want to load it with the least amount of qualified bodies. That way, if that plane does get blown up, we can still continue our mission with another porter, another cop, another comm. So just take that into consideration and be mission ready. You're not always going to do your job. Just be mission ready and be ready to attack the fight when it comes to you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Gotta love the port dogs. Hey, one group of folks we didn't really talk about, but when it comes to access, base, and overflight, our CR team, where you at, man? as we move around and we figure out where we can park airplanes and people, you guys are definitely in the fight. So if the CR's in here, thanks for what you guys do as well for the mobility team and our joint force. Hey, I'll wrap it up real quick. You know, my entire life I've been a fighter guy, and I deployed as a fighter unit, super easy for Afrigen in the fighter world, unless Untershear doesn't agree. But I never really paid attention to how my stuff got there. Now that I'm in air mobility, I appreciate everything our airmen do, and I've always been deployed with my bomber folks and just raining hate on people, so love it. I got one last question for you. We had a panel up here of some absent command chiefs who were living in the contested in the fight that we're in right now. We heard from them, but our airmen today, you heard from them, they're sharp, they're strong. They know that the training and doing the hard things is what sets them up for success. But do either of you have some words as we look at the future and we're gonna lose comms, we're gonna have degraded comms, and we're gonna have isolation? Is there anything you'd like to share for our airmen and NCOs that can prepare them to take action and just do the things they know they need to do when sometimes somebody's not there to tell them to do it?
Yeah, I think how I'd describe this for our team is that you don't have to be in a contested environment to actually experience this. You just need heat, noise, cold, wind, environmental factors. You can be on the flight line, you can be in a hangar, you can be in a dock, and you may not be getting the most clear communications from, decision makers. And so really some of this is about fighting ourselves. Frag changes, weapons changes, they come down, and by the time that reaches to the lowest echelon, we're struggling to, an airman is struggling to figure out why they are downloading 24 weapons when they just put 24 weapons on this aircraft. And so I think that we've got to be able to do a better job of informing down and being preparatory. But I do think airman innovation comes into this where some of our airmen have laid in capabilities where they can rapidly reload weapons, or they can rapidly load them to begin with. They know their timelines better than anybody, and it gives either CFAC commanders or Joint Force commanders decision space and margin where we otherwise did not have that before when our communication is tight. And I'm going to actually talk about Peter Nunes here, weapons loader from Whiteman at the time. Now he's in our IG. He's a 2W1. He is an innovator. He's been really great about leaning into this, risk decisions, and not taking undue risk. When I find out about some of the things he was doing, I was like, okay, all right, all TO-centric, all good, but, changing the way they do business to give our decision makers space and time to react. So, Peter, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things you... we're out of time.
We're out of time.
We're not going to talk about that, Sergeant Nunes, but don't worry, Sergeant Nunes is Outstanding Airman of the Year for the Air Force. So he'll get an opportunity to talk about that later.
Yeah. And of course you cut off the weapons. Dude, I got you, brother. Yeah. It might be my fault. Hey guys, thanks for spending some time today with us. Thank you to both our panelists. Can we get a round of applause for them? I said it in the beginning, our Air Force is the greatest Air Force the world has ever seen, bar none. Nobody has global reach like we do. It is a deterrent for our adversaries, and they know it, and that's why we have global power. And when called upon to do our nation's hard things, we'll be there to do it because we have these two folks leading Global Strike and Air Mobility Command. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break, and please be back in your seat by 15:25. Thank you.